14th meeting of the Newmarket Conservation Commission. We will start with the Pledge Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have a member of the public here, actually two, but I'm going to go ahead and start with Richie Shelton. Richie, if you could just introduce. Oh, I'm sorry. Attendance. Thank you, Sue.
You ready?
Yes.
Edward Reynolds, Deanna Fortune, Andrea Sellers, here. Sarah Finch, here. Casey Finch,
Here.
Drew Kiefaber.
Present.
Thank you, Sue, and welcome back. It's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
You keeping us on track. Now I will proceed with public comments. We have Richie Shelton from the Shopmeyer Park Committee to give us a report tonight. So,
Yeah, Richard Shelton, Packers Falls Road. I'm here to give you an update on our progress on the park. May 20, I think it was May 24th, the Newmarket Business Association held their annual meeting at the mill space, and I did a presentation on where we started and where we're at that meeting, and Amy put together a slideshow with some photos of the park. So we got through to that. Part of that was we're working on the park signage right now, and I know we're going to have two post signs located on the property. One will have something of the park, and the other one will be a layout of the Lamprey River. And they'll be on them 45-degree angle board, and we're working with a lady from Candia on setting up the paperwork that goes to the Portsmouth sign so they can do the rest of the work. So I'm not sure just how that works, but that's a pretty big expense. But other than that, we had some unanticipated expenditures today. We had to spend $4,000 for the bank survey and wetland study, approximately, and then another $688 to find a permit with DES. And that was all taken care of and filed. And it took us a year to get to that point. But anyway, it's in their hands now, and we finally got a permit today, a permit number. And so then we will track it down and see how long it's going to take. You know, we hope they accept our proposal, which we don't see anything against it. But anyway, that's how that goes. And then I got Joe Puliak is going to donate and build us a handrail for one of the walkways, the steps. He's quite busy now, so I talked with him again today, and he says he doesn't know when he can get it in, but it's on his list. He's got a big job at UNH right now, but he'll be working on that. He'll be donating that. And I think I have somebody that between our park and the thrift shop, there's a big pile of rocks that they put there when they dug the hole for the thrift shop. And I think I got somebody that's going to take care of that and move it for us with no charge. I hope. And it's looking that way anyway. But that's about where we are there. And I know the whole letter I read there, I sent you a copy if you want to pass it on to Dan. But so far at our CC meeting here tonight, Dennis has placed 3 birdhouses along the boundary lines. In fact, there's one bird nesting in one of them now, in the middle one. The seat wall, both walkways, and the garden area is completed. I already mentioned Joe Puliak will be donating a handrail. The application for the waterfront development was submitted by the state of the New Hampshire Department, DES, 6-4 by Mark Jacobs. And the planned waterfront designed by Dennis with the easy docking are included in the application. When we gain approval, a kayak launching will be included. Today, the design has been approved by LRAC, and the DES has accepted the application today, and we have a file number now to track it. The parking lot is currently being used by American Excavator employees, which I gave them permission. And after July 4th, they will be supplying us with the final crushed gravel to finish the parking lot. I'd like to place curbing along the outer edge of the lot. Rick said to check at the town pit. My son and I checked it out. Most pieces are broken, and to try to sort it out and get the good ones, we do not have the equipment. We're still looking into that issue. And finally, Chris was the Vice President of Agency Affairs with the Federal Law Enforcement Association. And this year, they will be holding their annual meeting in Boston, Mass, the end of July. As the park at this time is substantially completed, and to coincide with their meeting, Dennis, Terry, and I have been working at and would like to announce that we are planning the park dedication July 28th. More information to follow as we progress along. So that's where we stand right now.
Richie, do you know what day of the week July 28th is?
Yeah, it's the last Saturday in July.
It's the last Saturday, okay.
Now, we'll be sending a lot of emails out, and also we'll be sending a lot of letters to a lot of the people that donated to the park. And I'd like to pass along just what we'll be, this is the only copy I got, so I just printed it out today. And Terry's daughter-in-law did that, they put both sides.
Oh, wow, it's
Pass it
beautiful.
around. And that's what we'll be sending out. Now we're gonna try to get Staples to donate some kind of print those things. Well, they printed us 100 copies when we first started, but
Yeah.
they're sending out donations.
So Richie, a couple of quick questions, and I think easy ones. So, so you mentioned the DES permit. That's specifically for the docking and associated kayak launch. Is that correct?
It's for the ramps, the two platforms, the ramps that go down. I don't have a copy with me. And then there'll be the three or four or five floats out across there, and two it'll be in the cove, at the mouth of the cove, and two will go out, and on that two that go out, there'll be a kayak launch attached to there. You know, that you can,
Yep.
that you can remove it.
Right.
So you can, it'll be, you know, you can, put it in the spring and take it off before you take in the fall, the floats will have to come out.
Right. Great.
But we appropriated for that whole project, including the kayak. We don't think it's gonna run this much, but we approved 20,000 for that project. And we're still somewhat comfortable.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And then, do we have a time for the July 28th dedication?
It's on that
10:30.
front page.
10:30. There we go.
30 a.m.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you want a RSVP?
Yeah, because I think that Terry and Dennis and I are planning on having some sort of cookies and donuts or whatever, brownies. It's at 10:30, so in the morning we're gonna be holding it. And we don't know how many
Yeah.
people are gonna come. So that's where we're at right now, and I thought I'd like to let you know, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll be working ahead to make this a successful opening. I'm gonna have Dennis do all the program. He'll be the MC for the whole program because he's well versed in that. So, hopefully, that's about all I got today.
Well,
a lot.
thank you.
A lot of work.
Okay?
Thank
I
you.
do have the wetlands permit here for your dock, so
What's
it's
that?
just, the wetlands permit from DES is here, it's just come, so we'll actually be able to, vote to approve that tonight and then put our signature on it, so
Yeah.
it's exactly what you
There's a letter there-
described.
There's a letter there Lambie River Advisory Committee right to the state. You must have a copy.
Yep, we got that
Yeah,
copy.
that they approved the whole project.
Yep,
And
yep.
as a matter of fact, they invested in the purchase of the land. They gave us 10,000
Yeah.
towards the land.
Yep, no, they have a letter here in support
Yeah,
of it,
yeah.
but I just thought I would,
And
I would let you guys know that.
Mark did a good job in getting to the position where when he filed it. The packet was that thick for crying out loud. I got a copy, and I think you got a copy, and
Yeah, it's never easy.
I gave Dennis a copy because he'd already contacted a person up in the bureau, up there already today to see how quick they could get it moving along. It'd be nice to get that squared away this summer. But you never know, it could be next year, but hopefully they'll have it approved in our day, but we never know. Any more questions?
I don't know.
Nope.
Well, I'll keep you updated on how we're moving along, and I'll let Patrick know.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Richie.
And they can
Yeah.
pass it along to you people.
Thank-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone for their efforts.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
great
Takes a
progress.
lot, yeah.
Okay.
Takes a lot from a lot of people.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Okay, I'm gonna move on the agenda here. We have under old and new business 81 Exeter Road, and Eric is here to speak with us about that. So I'm gonna, if there's no objections, move that up so he can present that to us.
So I printed copies as you asked. I assume everybody wants one.
Please.
I think it would help if they're able to look on. There's Eric. Oh, thanks. Need a microphone there that's working. Eric, if you could just start by introducing yourself again and tell us what you're for.
Sure. My name is Eric DeWitt, the property owner at 81 Exeter Road. I'm here to get a signature and an endorsement letter in order to do a site plan development.
So did you want to start with your proposal? And
Sure. You want me to hook up the computer, or you want to go off of the
I think
sheets you have?
we can go off the sheets if
Okay.
everyone's comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first page is the existing conditions. You can see there's quite a bit of wetland. I've taken a lot of time and effort to come up with a site plan that works with what is there. I actually previously tried to sell it, and everybody sort of walked away when they've seen what's there. It's been a process, but I think I have something solid here. Next page is the demolition plan, which you guys, I don't know if you guys have been there or seen it. It's obviously, the houses there are sort of at the end of their life, and it's really kind of the entry property into Newmarket. So, it'd be great to just remove them and put something there that's more presentable and productive for the town. The next page, you can just see the location. It's in a pretty solid business district. It's zoned B1. And then on the next page is the proposed site plan. You can see there's a 2-story mixed-use building and a parking lot that utilizes a permeable system. I've included a lot of features that sort of, I'm hoping to do this as a sort of green development. So, not only do I have the permeable surface here, the walkways are the same. I've included cisterns to capture the rainwater, a 5-person bicycle rack, which only 2 is required. Next page is landscaping plan. The land is pretty lush, so I'm lucky that I'm able to utilize a lot of what's there. Just do a little bit of relocating with the forsythia, but everything else is pretty much existing. Next page is the exterior lighting plan. Utilizes all LED technology, which really is a lot of savings, energy consumption. Next 2 sheets are just the street view and the parking lot view of the building itself. And then the last 2 pages are just construction details.
So you were thinking offices and restaurants, is that what you said last time?
Yeah, so the second floor has 8 studio-style lofts, and the first floor is flexible use commercial space.
Oh, loft apartments, right?
Yeah, they're like on the smaller side.
How many commercial spaces?
Probably 2, yeah. It's like 2,500 square feet, so you split it and you can kind of, but the way it's designed is, it's the wall and the interior can sort of be placed in different positions. And then following our last meeting, I had my engineer draft the other 2 pages for you. The one that's on the top has the conclusion at the bottom for the watershed. Says the proposed improvements will have no adverse effect to the wetlands on the site. And then the drainage calculations are followed in the packet. And then the other packet is details on the parking system.
So the parking's different, right? Is it different than last time?
Mm-mm.
Okay. 'Cause I thought we were
It is different
over
in-
the line and now we're before the line.
Which page are you referring to?
I don't know, I guess all right now I'm looking at the lighting plan. Because I thought before we were coming into this line and that's why we were so on the fence a little bit.
Oh, no, there's
And-
no,
And now it seems to be much before that, you know.
yeah, none of the parking is on the actual wetland, it's just within the buffer. And the buffers are pretty big for it. You know, it's 50
Yes.
feet. But the area where the proposed parking is within the buffer, it's already a developed lawn. It's not like I'm trying to cut down trees and kind of fill in. It's already level. I'm really sort of utilizing what's there, and then the system kind of gets placed on top of it.
Oh, I see.
So Eric, on the pre-drainage plan,
Mm-hmm.
so what does S1 stand for? So it looks like it's a subset of something because it's 48 acres.
I think that's the larger surrounding area. So the property is a subset of that larger area of acreage.
And do you know what they use to delineate, flows going in and versus flows going out, it looks like?
Hmm.
And do you know what the dotted line is that's going through there?
That unfortunately, I think is an existing drainage that dumps a ton of water under the property. Would have been nice if it was somewhere else, but.
So you're saying that dotted line is drainage that it looks like it would be right on the border between your property and the funeral home property?
I think he's referring to the one that goes into the middle of the property. Is that right?
Well, there's a dashed line that I would say seems to be coming down,
Yeah.
down the hill off Bennett. And then it seems to parallel 108,
Yeah, this right here.
and then, yep.
Yeah, that's a big drainage pipe that dumps water onto the property.
So that's just showing a general flow. Okay. Yeah, because there's a drainage in front of the car wash that has a pipe that then goes under 108 that empties into your property, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
And that's probably what that's showing.
I mean, does it put that land there underwater, or?
No, but if you look at the wetland delineation, it certainly bulges towards that pipe.
So we're still looking at a number of parking spaces that would be inside the buffer, is that right? Approximately 4 parking spaces, is that right?
Right.
And just to just to reconfirm, you're here tonight to ask for a letter of support and you mentioned something else.
No, that's it. So it has to comply with a section of the ordinance that if I'm putting something within that setback, that you guys have reviewed it. And there's basically two criteria. One is that it's not within 150 feet of a few bodies of water, which addresses around. And the other is that no mitigation is needed. So I'm very, very far away from any of those bodies of water.
The two nearest bodies of water would be the Lamprey and Moonlight Brook. But they're well beyond 1,000 feet away. But here's the map, just so everybody can see that. If you have any questions, I'll pass it that way. And then
So when planning this site and the parking places, there was no way that 4 spaces could be put in any other place on the property, so they wouldn't be in that zone?
Yeah, so if you look at, I suppose the landscape plan is a good example. What I'm really trying to do here is keep the vehicles isolated to that corner. So if you look between the walkway and the parking, there's a fence that really obscures that backyard. So it's really a way to keep that nature and that view from being obstructed. Because really when you stand in that backyard and look out, it's really lush and beautiful. And I really didn't want to put anything behind the building.
Because I think I recall you saying was you sort of thought that would be an area that the tenants would look out towards, certainly your residents, the people that are living
Right.
there.
Right. And as part of the business plan, I want to utilize that back space for, tenants who are there.
So is the building oriented, the building is not oriented in the same direction as, say, the funeral home is? Is it perpendicular sort of oriented?
No, it's parallel to the road.
It's parallel to the road.
Well, it's parallel to the property line, so it's a few degrees off from the road.
Right.
But that's really a function of the front setbacks. So when you apply all the setbacks, the 50 feet from the wetland, the side setback and the front setback, what you're really left with is this triangle of buildable area. And that's really where this orientation came from. I mean, the corner of the building is right there on the buffer to the wetland. So it's really trying to get enough of a building in there that makes economic sense, and then to have the related parking to support it. The last person who looked at it to make it work, they would have needed to fill in that much. And I'm not talking buffer, like straight up fill in some of the wetland. And they ultimately walked away.
Other questions?
Because it does, I just want to talk about that for 1 second. It does seem like kind of 8 residential units and then office space and restaurant space, is that it?
Yeah.
In this tiny 5,000 square foot building?
Yeah, so the studios are on the smaller side, like really small. And it utilizes the arch of the roof to give a living space. So it's kind of on the theme of the small living. and this whole property is sort of like that. I'm going to include area for people to garden, walking paths around the property, because you can't really do anything else on the wetland. And then really to try to, plant native, fruit-bearing bushes and stuff like that.
It needs to, for economic viability, you have to have all those uses
Yeah.
on one property. Because, if you cut down like 2 apartments, perhaps that's 4 less parking spaces, but that's not economically viable.
Yeah, I've really studied this a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You were calculating like 1.5 people per parking spot too, so it'd be like 3.
Yeah, so the way that the parking calculations work is it doesn't distinguish between the size. So it straight up says 2 spots per unit. But if you have a 5-bedroom apartment, you still only need 2 spots. These are intended for 1 person. So that reduction is based on that calculation, that only 1 person is living there. And then sometimes the 0.5 is a guest, but it's a shared parking calculation. And that's actually, it comes into play with the mixed-use buildings as well, because there are different demands, peak AM and peak PM, and overnight, and you use all that to come up with a minimum formula for the parking required, and that's what this is.
So Eric, a couple of quick questions. So if I'm seeing it right, it looks like 2 of the spaces are within the 25-foot poorly drained
Yep.
buffer.
Yep.
And then 6 or 6.5 are within the 50-foot very poorly drained buffer.
Right.
And then a question I had on the material for the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
First, thank you for all the information on it. It's helpful. Which depth were you looking at for the
6
stone?
inches.
6 inch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The system distributes the weight laterally, and this is being designed for an SU 42-foot truck, which is like a box truck, not a tractor trailer.
Yeah.
And it's rated for that size.
For that load.
Yeah, it's, they go all the way down to 2 inches, so it's on the bigger size.
Right.
And the other advantage of it is that it acts as, it retains water in a storm event, the voids between the rocks, and then it infiltrates slowly into the ground. The drainage options for the site weren't great. I mean, you either dig a huge hole as a retaining pond, but then that land, it just becomes a hole, or underground storage tanks, but with the high water table, those wouldn't really work. Or you discharge it off property, which obviously we don't want to do that.
Any other questions for Eric? So I think the question before us is, do we have a motion of support for the proposal?
I'm for it.
You okay?
Yep, I'm okay with it. You're right, it's dilapidated. Something's gotta go there. You already own the property. What else can happen? I trust your studying, so I don't know. I think that's the best we can get. The parking lot seems good, and this is, yeah, it is already a creek sort of area. And he wrote here the net zero change in flows, drainage calculations.
I'd second that. I think it's a tough area, so it's a good use of space.
Yeah, it is a tough area.
Okay, so the proposal would be to, or the motion is to, as a motion of support for the site development plan as provided to us tonight. So there would be parking spaces that would go into the existing buffer. In addition, that we would be in support, I guess, writing a letter in support of this, just to clarify, that's what your motion is. Any other discussion? Okay.
One last one. Am I appointed as a voting member?
That is a good question. We need to actually appoint Drew as a voting member tonight, and Sarah, right?
No, Sarah's already
Oh, Sarah's already one. We decided that, didn't we? Okay. So, yes.
Okay,
You
thank
are
you.
appointed as a voting member tonight.
Thank you.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So is that 1, 2, 3,
4.
4? Ann, are you abstaining or are you?
Opposed?
Opposed. Okay.
410.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I will draft that letter up for you and send it off to you.
Great. Thank you very much. I have a copy of kind of what she's looking for, but
I appreciate that. I'll let you
that
know.
error is just I was matching the language that the engineer had in there. My words were a little bit different.
Okay. If I have any questions, I'll let you know. Otherwise, I will, after I draft this, I'll just send this out to everybody. Thank you, Eric.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. We have two sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first set of minutes would be from our April 12th meeting, which Sue sent out. And then the second set of minutes would be for May 10th. So, do I have a motion to approve the April 12th, 2018 minutes?
Make a motion to approve
Have a second?
Second,
Second?
sorry.
It's all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't here, so.
Okay. And then we also have the May 10th minutes that Sue sent out to us this week. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 10th, 2018 Conservation Commission meeting minutes.
Thank
I
you,
second
Drew.
the motion.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Ann, are you ready to give us a treasurer's report?
Sure.
Excellent.
Okay. Treasurer's report. First of all, we have the balance of $310,622.49. We got a check from Loco Sports for $250. That's just a for our fees. The park for the marathon.
And the check for the fishing department was also
Oh, that-
deposited as
Yes.
well went out,
No,
those were
went out.
outgoing funds, yeah. Yes. Any questions? Thank you, Ann. Okay, we have town council member, Casey, do you have a report to share with us?
Nothing, nothing majors on the agenda, and in July and August, we only have one meeting too, so things are kind of slow during the summer, so there's really nothing from our last meeting to report on.
Okay, Sarah, planning board?
So we had our meeting on Tuesday, and the only item that we discussed was Eric DeWitt presented, and we accepted his application and forwarded him over to the Conservation Commission. And that was it.
Okay. So let's go on to chairman's report. I really only have a few items. One, I do want to mention that this Saturday is the Newmarket Fishing Derby, which we supported. So the public, that's a great event, and I hope people will go out to it. It's a lot of fun. The Boy Scouts put a lot of work into it. They do make it a fun family event.
What time does that start? 7?
7 a.m., but if you want a good spot on the pond, you gotta get there pretty early. Fishermen get up early, that's what they do, but the Boy Scouts will have donuts and coffee there for people usually, so it's good. Richie gave his report on Shopmire Park, so I don't really have anything new there. We got that report. I think that's pretty much gets us up to date on that.
Any new mail?
Yeah, we've got a lot of mail. Okay, thanks, Sarah. Let's go through that. So the top of the list, let us go first to the item that Richie was here talking to us about, which is the seasonal dock. So I have the permit here, permit application, which would require our signature if we're in support. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I just have the one copy, so I will pass that around so that you can take a look at that. That has all the information about the docking system, the wetlands mapping that they did. As Richie sort of described, they invested a lot of money in having everything mapped on the site and the wetlands delineated, and there's information about the docking system and where it will go. I have not read through every item on there, but I've just generally followed through with the information he's provided.
Did you happen to see the LRAC report or have their opinion on
Yeah,
it?
they have a letter in support.
Okay.
LRAC is in support, and I have that letter here.
Wide reading?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that this way? So let me see if I can.
Half inch of light reading.
Maps to study.
Taking a clue.
Here is the, this is actually a letter from them just in general support. It does not, yes, it does. It does list the dock on there. It's just, it didn't call it a dock. It's a non-motorized watercraft structure. So that threw me off a little bit. I wasn't as up to date on that
So I
terminology.
bet that affects the permitting a little bit.
It's an unmotorized craft.
So this
Structure. Watercraft.
Yeah, so it's like you park your pontoon
I
boat
would
there
call
all
that a-
season. and then you
I would
drive
call
at
that a
it.
dock, but, all right.
So, yeah, so just so people in the public know, and as Richie kind of already stated, the proposed seasonal dock would span across the cove that comes into the park area, which would allow for people to walk out onto the water surface area, and also has a protrusion sticking out that would provide easy access for people to be able to launch boats and get in and out readily. And again, since it's seasonal, it'll be removed for the winter.
It also creates an access across. You know, the cove comes into the property, and in order to get, so at the waterfront part of the property, there's actually two parts. And the part that everyone has access to is you park in the parking lot and then you just walk straight towards the river, and that's all a grassy area. Once you get to that area, if you would walk across this floating structure, you would then have access to another part of the property that's also on the waterfront, but is kind of surrounded by wetlands. So you can get there probably in a drier time of year, but if it's a little wet in there, they probably really don't want people walking through there that much. They're certainly not gonna make a trail through there. So this would also provide access to that area. That area was used in the past as a historic use. There were times when Boy Scouts camped there, and there's actually some old structures that they're probably gonna, or picnic tables that they're gonna remove because they're not good shape, but, so it does do that. I also, let's see here, two permits that we received. One was one that we talked about at our previous meeting, which was the filling in of the swimming pool at 12 Smith Garrison Road. That was approved, so there's that. I'll share that with you. This one is less specific, so I don't know. It's for Lincoln Ave in Newmarket, tax map number U2, lot number 243. And this is something that was approved for to construct a new home. So I'll pass that along in case anyone wants to see that. There's no required activity on our part on those. Those are just two approvals that we received. Rockingham Conservation District, Conservation District is holding a free invasive plant management on municipal working lands, a pilot project. So what they're looking for are requests or letters or emails of interest from towns interested in having their own town working lands evaluated for invasive plant species. Selected towns will have their sites evaluated and plans developed with municipal input to prevent the spread of invasive vegetation. Optional herbicide application up to 1 acre of invasive vegetation will be offered as one of the initial steps in management, if appropriate. All services are funded by a grant from the Department of Agriculture, Markets and Foods, and are offered at no cost to towns and municipalities. 3 to 5 towns will be selected for the initial pilot program, but all letters of interest will be used to evaluate appropriate funding levels for continuation of the project. So it sounds like an opportunity to have some invasive species management done at no cost to the town or the Conservation Commission. And what we'd have to do is put forth a site and in a letter describe, the management that we would imagine happening on that as well. So brief description of the lands and some indication if it is known that the invasive species are a problem and what those species might be. So I certainly can think of several properties that fit all of that criteria as far as we have a description, we can tell them exactly what the species are and what the problems are. And we can describe any road rights of way, or anything like that and are impacted.
So that's a grant opportunity that they're gonna remove invasive species or
Yeah,
analyze our habitat?
So they would do an evaluation, develop a plan with our input or the town's input to prevent the spread of invasive vegetation. It's optional. The options include herbicide application on up to 1 acre of invasive vegetation, as would be offered as one of the initial steps, if appropriate. So I don't know that they exactly delineated all the services that they would be providing, but they're saying that's one option that they would be considering. And it sounds like even if we were accepted, we would still have input into what actually happened on that land. We wouldn't just be turning it over to them to do whatever they wanted.
And the fact that they'll evaluate the land and give us an idea if there was more there than we thought or
Right,
whatever.
right. So my idea would be, we already have at least one area identified out at Wigan Farm where we know there's invasive species that need to be removed, and it's in the management plan to try and restore it to an open area. I would be interested in seeing if that would be something that they would be interested in supporting.
Does it limit us to just one area, or can they evaluate?
It doesn't specifically say, but it just said include a brief description of the lands that would be evaluated. Multiple parcels in a town may be submitted, so that answers your question, multiples. So.
Because when
Scastic also has plenty of invasive species that could be managed.
Because I don't remember, when Ellen made her management plan, she suggested going back there with some equipment. But I don't know if she specified beyond that, so perhaps this could, okay, we gotta, come back with the tractor and blah, if they can give us, and then we can, start to develop that in reality, I guess.
Well, it
Bring
sounds
to
like
fruition with this,
we could submit two. We could submit Wigan Farm, we could submit Pecasig, we could, I don't know if there's a third that anyone would think of.
I think we're pretty lucky with the knotweed in this town. We don't have a lot of, you do?
all along Grant Road, all
Yeah,
along.
Grant Road's got a lot.
There's a lot of places.
But yeah, it's only on conservation land.
Conservation land.
They
Yeah.
specifically talk about,
Right.
not including right of way.
I guess when I think of herbicide, I think knotweed first.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm reading here further, and it sounds like this is for working lands only. So,
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Because we hay at Piscastic Lizelle, is that considered a working land?
so that sounds, we hit both of those properties actually, are both
Yeah.
Pecasig and, but whether that
Why
meets the
make that
definition.
face?
Here-
Because Wigan's really not hay, it's just mowed.
So
Yeah.
here's what I would do. Here's what I'll do as a takeaway. I will go ahead and, since Ariana Spear, the conservation technician, has addressed this to us, I will go ahead and reach out to her to get clarification on what working lands are, because I can't imagine,
And it seems almost in opposition to
Town
conservation.
working
Right,
like-
how can you have conservation unless it's,
Or
Yeah.
like the farm there, New Roots Farm, I guess that would be a working easement,
Mhm.
he's working.
Mhm.
it's an easement?
I think easements would qualify, actually. But I'll get clarification on that, and then I'll email back to the group. How does that sound, everybody?
Sounds good.
Do you want
Could
me
you
to-
scan that letter into your email back?
What's that?
Could you scan that letter?
Do you want me to scan that letter? Yeah, I will do that.
And when's the due date for the application?
You know what, she does not provide any due date on here, so that's another, note that I'll follow up on. Okay.
That's a little motivation for us.
So this is a letter from DES, but it doesn't give me an address of, it just gives me it doesn't even give me a tax map number or a lot map number. It just gives me a wetlands permit application file number. So it looks like it might involve a nature conservancy, because they're CC'd on it too. I don't know if anyone has any insight into that one. I would appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet this is for the oyster reef restoration.
We talked about it the last meeting.
Yeah, I'll bet that's what this one's for.
Okay.
Because it's got Ray Grizzle from UNH.
Okay,
and-
that's, that.
He did
that-
say he was gonna send us a
Sure.
date when they're going out there.
Receive the application and supporting materials.
It's just received.
Just notification, yeah.
And then it looks like we also just got CC'd on a permit that was submitted for 7 Bayview Drive. Just letting us know that they were missing some items and they needed to resubmit, so, nothing requiring our action, but I'll go ahead and pass that around so that everyone can see what that is. I think this is right up there in the mail world. And this is just another letter regarding 12 Smith Garrison Road, which we already discussed, has been approved. All right, last. Okay, this is another shoreland permit. This is for Moody Point Company. Address. Project location is 2 Osprey Lane. And this is a notification that they are submitting this permit, so I'm expecting to hear more from them, but I'll pass that along. I don't. So there's that. And that's 12 Smith Garrison, we've already seen that. And this is the permit, I believe, for the Oyster Reef restoration. Which we've already dealt with, so there's nothing really there.
That's a notification of receipt.
No, it's just, I think it's just a copy, yeah, that, looks like it's just a copy that they've received it. They went ahead and submitted it, so they provided us with a copy, it looks like. Okay.
So this was like.
That moves us along to something we discussed last time, but we actually have before us now. I have the application for usage of Shanda Waterfront Park from Newmarket Rec Department. This is for the Tuesday night activities, Arts in the Park Summer Concert Series. We discussed this last time, but we've actually got it in writing now. So the dates will be every Tuesday, 6/26 through 8/28, 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Is there any questions or discussion on this permit request for Shanda Park? We have discussed it previously. We just hadn't formally gotten the application.
Love
So-
it.
Is everyone familiar with that event that the rec department does? No questions? Okay. I'll make a motion then that we approve the request for usage for Shanda Park for the rec department for Tuesdays, June 26th through August 28th from 5 p.m. to 8:30 for the community event Arts in the Park Summer Concert Series.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think that passed 3-1, is that right?
No, 5-0.
5-0, okay. I wasn't sure. I was,
Just checking up on you.
yeah. Okay. Casey, I think we are now ready to hear about
All right, diligent.
your, oh,
Well, no, I was gonna say, we should, if we're planning to sign this wetlands application for the dock, we should have a motion
oh,
associated with it.
thank you.
To wrap that up. So with that in mind, I will make a motion that we approve the wetlands permit application for a seasonal dock at the future Chris Shopmeyer Memorial Park.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Drew. I will sign that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now we are ready to discuss the work that Casey did on getting some estimates for a dock, or a gate for the Heron Point access.
Okay, so you should have all received an email from me with some estimates. I took point on the assumption was I'd at least get some information about how the automated gate at Heron Point could work. So I contacted Granite State Gates, and through a few phone calls, they suggested that solar was not a viable option at all, just because of the location and the fact that what we're asking the gate to do, which would be automatic opening and closing, we'd want first responders to be able to get down there, and a few other features. There'd constantly be draining from the battery, so it would be likely to have issues in terms of failing and just not being able to operate. So what they had suggested was that we try to kind of hardwire the power if possible and have like a powered system. So then I reached out to our facilities director, who said he thought it was a possibility to hardwire it to the utilities. He took a look out at Heron Point, and he basically came back with a full quote for the town to do it. So what I shared with you is if the town connects to the utilities and installs an automated gate system that met all those requirements, and then I gave you 2 quotes from Granite State Gate if they did the same thing. The only thing to note, and I kind of put on a spreadsheet to show you, is that regardless of what happens, we need to connect to the utilities, and that was the top line item across all 3, which I'm actually having a hard time pulling up right now. I think it was around 2,800 to connect to that. Let me see if I can pull it up from my phone.
Yeah, it seemed like if we have the other company do it,
There we go.
it's like a magnitude higher in price.
Yeah, so and so up here, the top light, regardless of what happens, we would have to connect to the electrical service, which was in the amount, for the town to do it, that's $2,680. So if we install it, we pay that. If Granite State comes for either other option, we still have to have the town hook up. So that was kind of what set the prices apart so much. So at the end of the day, for the town to do an automated install, our facilities director could install that, meeting all the requirements in terms of a time system, remotes for first responders, backup battery. The town could do it for, the quote we got was $6,197. For Granite State Gates, including electrical service, to come out and use our existing gates would be $9,071. And for them to install a new barrier arm, which is another option, just kind of a drop arm, that would be $10,011. So those are the 3 options I got. I'm happy to reach out to others, but the reason I stopped there was once I started talking to the facilities director, it just seemed pretty cost effective to have the town do it, and also pretty timely. Our director of facilities said that that's something that could be installed in a couple weeks or less. So.
Is there an issue connecting to the power? Is the power privately owned or anything since it's in the co-op, or is that, I don't know how that works.
There's
if the
2
town
utility
power
poles right
lines-
there, and we can connect, and we're clear to hook up to it
Okay.
if we need to, yeah, through EverSource. So we got the
So it's
it's
not-
we can do it if we want to.
So they metered separately.
Yeah, and the other what our facilities director mentioned was that he did something similar for the old town up in Maine that he worked in, and they had tried to do it through one of the residents, one of the abutters. They tried to just pay them per month, but there was
yeah.
other issues with that. So his recommendation was to
Get the gate.
get the gate and pay the utilities through the town. So
So what would it be like timed and then like a magnetic thing and then it would release and then swing open and then release again and swing shut? on
yeah,
the
yeah. So
timer?
right now it's like a wooden gate that goes across, kind of like a triangle. They would level that out. If either way, we level it out so it swung a little bit more freely. There would be basically a piston that just pushes the gate open and close. So there'd be on a timer.
Okay.
It would open at sunrise, close at sunset, and there would be sensors for if anybody were on the other side of it. It would allow them to exit, and then it would close up for the rest of the night. It'd be remote operated, and those remotes would be for our first responders. There is another way to do it besides the remote control, which is you can actually connect it to the radios they use, but that would be extra $1,500 to get that system on top of it. So the remotes are pretty cheap, so we could get multiple remotes and Velcro them in the different vehicles or whatever it may be. And
Are they okay
likewise,
with
you can
that?
detach too. You can detach the piston for the opener, so if there was an absolute emergency or a tree came down or something, you can easily just, there's like a pin to separate out.
Oh, okay.
That'd be pretty easy for, if needed, but the remotes would kind of be the way to go there. Well, the nice thing in this case, we keep the gate as is, and there's not a lot of
Construction.
other construction, because the other 2 options to bring in a new gate or even a barrier arm would require a lot of accessories that would really kind of clutter up the area. So this would just use the pre-existing gate.
Yeah, that's
Sounds really.
Yeah, I like the fact that the town would be so knowledgeable about the system,
Yeah.
so that they would be really comfortable if they had to use it for emergency access. And just
Yeah, or
having
fix it.
them be familiar with it in general would help us to maintain it, I think, too.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, because we put it in, we know exactly how to maintain it, and this is a setup that Greg, our director of facilities, has actually done before. So when he saw it, he's like, I've done the same exact thing before. So we get to retain
Oh,
that
that's awesome.
nice wooden one versus having like a yellow barrier arm or something. So,
That sounds good to me. I
Yeah,
mean,
love it.
I can't think of a lot else that it doesn't address there.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, we should probably communicate with the cooperative, the board of directors of the cooperative, and get their buy-in,
okay.
just to make sure that we have their buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, here's what we're thinking.
How have we, in the past, how have we been communicating with them through our town administrator, or have we communicated with them directly?
Some of each,
Okay,
so I think we could go either way.
okay,
In this case, I would say we should probably talk to the town administrator and see what he would like us to do.
okay. Yeah, so I can reach out to him tomorrow and just kind of figure it out, because I think it'd be nice to just see if we can get approval from Heron Point as well, make sure they're
Right.
satisfied with it. But I think that's the most cost-efficient option, but I'm happy to go research others, but I think doing it in-house makes sense.
No, I really like that approach, and,
Yeah, gives our guys something to do.
practical, cost-effective, something we can actually maintain, as
Yeah.
opposed to, that was my bigger concern with it.
And then we're married to this company.
Yeah. The other one was a lot of our range, I felt like. Okay, great. So you're gonna follow up, and do you wanna just email us if there's anything that we need to do? I'm happy to come to a meeting if they wanna meet with us, or, it sounds like Greg, the facilities director, might be helpful in terms of at least explaining his experience with it to them, to make them more comfortable with it, if he has an example of how this has worked in another community.
To Heron Point, explain it to how.
It's actually there, the name of the park is Mobile Home Park is something else, it's not Heron Point. What is it? I can't remember now. I don't know, but
Okay,
they have another,
Okay.
but yes, that's at least their board, somebody from their board.
Okay.
Probably. Okay, I'm sorry, I skipped over Drew's Dearborn property survey, but let me come back to that.
Sure, so, reached out to Scott Boudreau, he has just recently responded, he is available to do the survey on that property. So we're moving forward on that slowly but surely. The key will be, figuring out the easement for the driveway that goes through the property. Because the driveway has been paved, which is most likely in violation of the conservation easement on the property. So that will need to be figured out.
Steve Walker
Addressed,
needs
right.
to be brought
Yeah,
into that
he needs to
conversation.
be involved in that conversation, and the abutters need to be brought into that conversation.
We were talking about the driveway of those two, not Dearborn, the Dearborn.
It would
property?
be 202 Grant, is that?
Yeah.
The new house they put?
No, so not the new houses.
Oh, the one back behind?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the worst case scenario is they have to bust up the pavement. I mean, it was an unpaved driveway, and that's been there. And it hasn't been noted as an easement violation because of an unpaved driveway. So I think returning to that would be the worst case scenario. I think that's also likely.
Do we have any information about, the reclamation at Neal Mill Road? Is that started? Do we get notification on when that's started and completed or anything like that?
No, but that's a good question, Andrea, and I will take that as a takeaway to follow up on that. I've been out there recently. I did notice, I did have a question about, and maybe Drew would know the answer to this. Do we typically have a dirt pile that's put up sort of flush almost to the gate at the end of Neal Mill Road? Is that typical?
No.
No.
So
That's new.
there's a space there between sort of maybe the stone wall and that gate that's on the road, and I noticed there's
There's a new dirt pile there.
a new
Oh,
dirt
that's
pile there.
wonderful.
Okay, so that was not my misunderstanding, okay.
Yes. I think there's discussions of that dirt pile. Is the way to say it.
Okay. So that's technically almost a right-of-way issue. It doesn't, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't really fall to our, it doesn't
Easement
impact us in
violation.
terms of, it's not on our property in any
It's
way.
not on the
It's within the right-of-way
Of
of
the
that
road.
Class 6 road.
Correct.
That is on the other side of the gate there, right?
So whose responsibility is that then?
I don't know, and that's a,
Because we talked about the DOE didn't want to do anything to try to maintain it at all, because then they're obligated.
right.
So, I don't know, if a tree falls in the woods, who hears it?
So this is, so that's a
Sneaky
picture
Pete in
of
the
it.
night.
Yeah, so it's just a big dirt pile that's right
Yeah,
up there. and
nice.
People would, if you've ever been to the end of Neal Mill Road,
Blocks your access.
the way to, it's a Class 6 road, so it's got a gate across it so cars can't go on it, but where that dirt pile is where pedestrians would walk to access the road. And now they're probably stamping that dirt pile down. I haven't been out there in a week or more to look at it, but it's probably getting pushed down because people are walking over it. I can't imagine people are not still accessing
Yeah, I take my
that.
bike out there.
And I don't know if South would do anything about it since it might access, their access is that way too, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to ask, I guess.
Alright. I do have one other question, Drew.
I'll loop you in on some email paths related to that.
Okay. We don't have any other updates from Dwayne on
No,
the Neal Mill parcel?
no.
No, nothing. Still just in progress.
Yep.
Because I hadn't seen anything, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Does anyone have anything further at this point? Okay. Then I would make a motion to adjourn at 8:24 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.